This girl vanished after going viral, then reappeared with a voice that broke the internet. Welcome to our channel, where every story is crafted to move your heart and stir your soul. If this tale touched you, we'd love to know. Drop a comment below and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because tomorrow we'll bring you another unforgettable story you won't want to miss. They called her the Doll Girl, but her name was Ava Robinson. She was just 3 years old when her mother, Janelle, dressed her in a soft pink dress layered with delicate ruffles for a small church ceremony in Georgia. The morning light streamed through the stained glass windows, casting gentle colors across Ava's skin. Her hair was styled in perfect little curls, pinned carefully by her mother's hands, and a single white flower sat above her left ear. Her earrings were no bigger than pearls, and her shoes were slightly too big for her tiny feet. But she looked like she had stepped out of a storybook. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just a little girl, quietly holding her mother's hand and looking around with wide eyes. Someone at the church snapped a photo. Just one. By that evening, the photo had made its way to Facebook. By the end of the week, it had gone viral across multiple continents. "Is this real?" people asked. "She doesn't even look human, more like a porcelain doll." The comments flooded in. "Who is this baby model? This has to be CGI." Strangers speculated on whether she was part of an ad campaign or a digital rendering. But no, Ava was a real child, living with her mother in a tiny apartment near the highway, surrounded by the daily noise of trucks and sirens, far from the glamorous life people imagined. At the time, Janelle didn't even own a smartphone. A neighbor had to show her the viral post on their screen. Janelle stood frozen, staring at her daughter's face, now seen by millions. It felt like a dream, maybe even a blessing. Soon, emails began to pour in. Boutique children's clothing brands reached out. Talent agencies called with promises of opportunity and wealth. One woman even offered to create Ava's personal brand, complete with social media managers and scheduled photo shoots. "Your daughter," they said, "is already a star." But the reality was far more complicated. Janelle was working 2 jobs, mornings at a dental office and evenings cleaning rooms at a local hotel. She often skipped her own meals so Ava could eat lunch at daycare. Their apartment was barely 450 square feet. She couldn't afford new shoes for herself, but she made sure Ava had clean clothes and a warm bed every night. Fame, in theory, sounded like an escape from all of that. But in practice, it meant pressure, expectations, and strangers wanting a piece of her child. The world saw Ava as a perfect doll, a living painting. But Janelle saw more. She saw a little girl who got tired after long shoots, who cried at night when people touched her hair without asking, who flinched when strangers leaned in too close. Ava wasn't a doll, she was a child. And in that moment, Janelle quietly began to question whether the world's spotlight was truly a blessing or a curse wrapped in glitter. Janelle knew what they were all thinking. Why would any mother walk away from this? The attention, the contracts, the chance at a different life. But those people didn't live her life. They didn't hear Ava's sobs after photo shoots or see her flinch when another stranger bent down and called her too perfect to be real. They didn't know what it felt like to be told your daughter was a product, a brand, a limited-time phenomenon. Behind every flashing camera and glossy backdrop was a worn-out mother juggling 2 jobs and a 4-year-old who just wanted to stay home and build pillow forts. While agents sent emails about magazine spreads, Janelle stood at the bus stop in the rain, wearing $12 shoes with holes in them, counting quarters to buy dinner. She cleaned dental offices in the morning and pushed carts of linens through hotel corridors at night. Her back ached, her hands cracked from cleaning chemicals, but none of that hurt as much as the look on Ava's face when she whispered, "Do I have to smile today, Mommy?" That's when Janelle made a decision that most people didn't understand. She pulled Ava out of her scheduled shoots. She canceled the meetings. She told the branding manager they were done, and when the woman on the other end of the phone screamed, "Do you have any idea how much money you're walking away from?" Janelle answered calmly, "Yes, but I also know what I'm protecting." The backlash came fast. Friends stopped. Calling. Acquaintances accused her of being jealous of her own child's success. "You're wasting her chance," they said. "She could be famous by now." But Janelle had seen what fame really looked like. Restless nights, forced smiles, and a daughter who started dreading the camera. That wasn't the dream. That wasn't freedom. That was a cage made of gold. At home, life didn't magically get better. In fact, it got harder. Without the extra money from modeling gigs, every bill became a mountain. Rent climbed, groceries stretched thinner. Janelle sometimes skipped meals, lying to Ava that she had already eaten. And still, she never once regretted her choice. Because, at night when they curled up together in their tiny apartment, Ava would fall asleep clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. Not a trophy, not a brand kit, just a toy. Just a child being allowed to be a child. Then came the hardest moment of all. One winter evening, Ava came home from school, saw her mom sitting at the kitchen table, head in her hands, silent tears falling, and asked in the smallest voice, "Did I ruin everything, Mommy? Because you stopped those jobs?" Janelle looked up, eyes red, heartbreaking. She stood, knelt beside her daughter, and pulled her close. "No, baby," she whispered. "You didn't ruin anything. You saved it." And in that moment, as the wind howled outside and the heat barely worked, they clung to each other, mother and daughter, holding on to something bigger than fame. They were holding on to their freedom. After that winter, something quietly shifted inside Ava. The cameras were gone, the contracts dissolved, and the world had moved on to the next viral child. But what remained, what truly endured, was time. Unstructured, quiet time. And in those rare moments when the apartment wasn't filled with the noise of traffic or overdue bill notices, Ava began to draw. It started with crayons, then washable markers, then a cheap watercolor set Janelle bought from the dollar store with the last few singles in her wallet. Ava would sit cross-legged on the floor, right in the hallway between their tiny bedroom and the bathroom, and draw for hours. Some days it was fairies with flowing dresses. Other days it was ballerinas dancing under starlit skies. Every stroke, every color, every shape felt like a breath of fresh air. A voice Ava hadn't known she had, finally coming alive. Janelle watched from the kitchen, still wearing her work uniform, exhausted, her knees aching from scrubbing floors all day. But her heart filled each time Ava lifted her head and smiled with paint on her cheeks. The hallway wall, once bare and chipped, became Ava's canvas. Week by week it transformed. 1 month a glowing forest, the next a parade of winged girls dancing across glowing cityscapes. Janelle never once stopped her. She handed Ava tape when she wanted to add paper, fetched her water for rinsing brushes, and sat on the floor beside her when she could spare the time. They called it Ava's world. And for the first time in years, Ava felt like she owned something real. At school, things were more complicated. The nickname hadn't gone away. The doll girl, they still whispered. Some classmates wanted selfies. Others just stared, but most didn't try to know her. Until one afternoon, after art class, a teacher named Mrs. Thompson noticed Ava staying behind, quietly packing up a stack of drawings. The teacher crouched beside her and picked up a painting of a girl, flying through a broken mirror. "This is beautiful," she said gently. "Did you make this?" Ava nodded. "She wants to get out," she whispered. Mrs. Thompson didn't mention her looks, or the viral photo, or the nickname that lingered. She simply asked, "Do you want to be an artist?" Ava looked up, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to perform. She nodded again, this time with more certainty. "I want to make stories," she said. And from that moment on, something began to bloom. At home, Janelle turned Ava's corner of the hallway into a true studio. No camera lights, no makeup, just color, imagination, and love. They played soft, jazz or old soul records on a second-hand speaker, letting music fill the silence. When the world outside felt too big, too harsh, or too loud, they returned to that wall. Brush in hand, Ava found her peace, and her story, once told by others, was finally becoming her own. By the time Ava turned 16, the hallway wall was nearly full, layer upon layer of painted memories. The ballerinas, the cities, the flying. Girls, they'd all become part of her journey. But something else had begun to stir in her heart, a quieter kind of expression. Not through lines or colors, but through sound. Music had always been in their home, even when money wasn't. Old soul records, gospel on Sundays, the hum of the radio while her mother cooked. Ava had always listened, but now she was starting to hear. Not just melodies, but meaning, feelings. Words she couldn't always speak aloud began to take form in lyrics she scribbled in the corners of her sketchbooks. It started in secret. Late at night, when the apartment was quiet and her mother finally sleep, Ava would pull out an old borrowed laptop and a second-hand microphone Janelle found at a pawn shop for $20. She'd build a makeshift studio on her desk using stacked foam cushions to block out the highway noise. Surrounded by paint-splattered walls and the scent of old watercolor, she sang. Not for anyone else, but just to breathe. Her voice wasn't loud. It wasn't polished, but it was hers. Low, trembling, raw with emotion. She sang about the girl behind the mirror, about being seen but not heard, about longing to be something other than beautiful. She recorded and erased, then recorded again. Every time getting a little closer to something real. And one night, with her heart pounding in her chest, she did something bold. She uploaded her first song. No face. No name. Just a black screen with white text that read, "From a girl who dreams." She didn't expect much, maybe a few clicks, maybe nothing at all. But by morning, it had over 20,000 views. The comments rolled in like a wave. "This voice feels like a memory I forgot I had. She sings like she's been through something. I don't know who she is, but I need more." Ava stared at the screen, stunned. They didn't care what she looked like. They weren't praising her curls or calling her porcelain. They were listening to her words, to her heart. She uploaded another song, then another. Always the same black screen, always the same name, "From a Girl Who Dreams." The following grew. 100,000 subscribers became 500,000, then 1,000,000. Ava still said nothing publicly. She declined podcast invites, ignored record label emails. She wasn't ready for fame again, not like before. Not on someone else's terms. At home, Janelle found out the way most moms do, by noticing the subtle things. The late nights, the earbuds always in, the notebooks filled with lyrics. One morning she walked into the kitchen to find a Post-it on the table. It read, "Mom, thank you for letting me find my voice." Janelle pressed it to her chest and smiled through tears. Her daughter had once been called a doll. Now she was becoming a voice the world couldn't ignore. And this time, it was Ava who controlled the story. By the time Ava turned 19, the girl who once sang in whispers had become a phenomenon, without ever showing her face. Her songs were now played in coffee shops across the country. Independent filmmakers begged to license her lyrics. Teenagers wrote her words in notebooks. Therapists used her music in sessions. And still, no one knew who she was. She had built an empire out of anonymity. And in that silence she had found power, real power. Not the kind that demanded makeup or poses, but the kind that made people stop and feel something real. She still lived in the same apartment with Janelle. The hallway wall was now framed with memories. Her makeshift studio remained in the corner of her bedroom. Foam cushions, chipped desk, and that same borrowed mic. But Ava had begun working on something bigger. Her first full-length album. 11 original songs. 11 pieces of her soul. She titled it Dollhouse. Each track told a chapter of her life. The pressure to smile. The ache of being seen but never known. The nights she and her mom painted while the world forgot them. The moment she found her voice in the dark. The final song, track 11, was the most personal. It was about healing, about shedding the name Doll Girl and becoming whole. The Aki album dropped on a quiet Thursday at midnight. It debuted at number 7 on the global charts. And just when people thought she might finally reveal herself, she didn't. She stayed silent, letting the music speak. But deep down, Ava knew the moment was coming. The moment when she'd finally look into the world's eyes and say, "I'm not hiding, I'm healing." 2 months later, she uploaded one final video. No teaser, no warning, just a title. "This is my voice." The video opened in total darkness. Then slowly, a single spotlight lit a wooden stool on an empty stage. Ava stepped into frame. She was wearing a soft pink dress, an echo of the one from her childhood photo. But this time, the dress was hers. No frills, no bows, tailored, strong. Her curls were natural and free, her face calm, her eyes direct. She looked into the camera. "My name is Ava," she said. "I was once called a doll, but today I'm finally real, and this is my voice." Then she sang, "Live." No auto-tune, no backing track, just her and a guitar. The song, raw, aching, defiant, was about reclaiming power, about no longer belonging to strangers, about being more than beautiful, more than remembered, about being seen, fully, finally, truthfully. The internet broke. Ava trended worldwide. Celebrities reposted it. Teachers played it in classrooms. News anchors called it the moment we've all been waiting for. But when asked to comment, Ava kept it simple. "I wasn't hiding. I was healing." That night, she headlined her first sold-out concert in New York, and in the front row sat Janelle, hands over her heart, tears streaming down her face. After the final note, Ava stepped off stage, hugged her mother, and whispered, "We made it, Mama." And they had. Together, Ava's journey isn't just a story about music or fame. It's about courage, healing, and a mother's unwavering love. If her story touched you the way it touched us, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us, have you ever walked away from something the world called success just to protect your peace? Have you ever had to rediscover your own voice after being labeled, misunderstood, or silenced? Share your thoughts, your stories, or even just where in the world you're watching from in the comments below. We believe storytelling is a two-way street. This isn't just a video, it's a conversation. Your words might inspire someone else reading the comments. Maybe there's a Janelle in your life, or maybe you're still finding your Ava moment. Either way, your voice matters here. And if you'd like to see more stories like this about strength, transformation, and quiet triumphs, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. We post new stories every week, and the next one might just speak directly to your heart. So go ahead, scroll down, leave a comment, and let us know. What did Ava's story mean to you?